Bladesinging Wizard Multiclass builds are broken overpowered in Baldur's Gate 3, and here's why. The Bladesinging Wizard gets their extra attack at level 6, and all other casters get their unique subclass abilities at level 6, meaning you can mix in 6 levels of 2 casters, get an extra attack, and with the wizard, you learn any spell from a scroll, so you can get things like Chain Lightning. Now, you don't have to worry about your spell save DC as much, because with this class, you can equip the newly fixed Gloves of the Battle Mage's Power, and every time that you use Booming Blade, or even just do a base attack with Shadow Blade, you can gather the Arcane Acuity, which can give you up to a +10 to your spell save DC. So then you can get upwards of like 26, 28 on your intelligence, meaning that your Chain Lightnings are going to hit, your Hold Persons will hit, and then you can do extra attacks on top of that. This is really fun, and I'm going to show you a multi-class using the Bladesinging Wizard and the Tempest Domain Cleric, because you can actually use their level 6 ability to push back enemies off of your Booming Blade. And the best part about the Tempest is it gets the Channel Divinity to roll maximum lightning damage. So if you create water setup and then use Chain Lightning, it'll do 160 damage guaranteed, because the Tempest Domain can max roll their damage. So it can one-shot a lot of people. So starting wizard, we're going to grab for cantrips Booming Blade, one of the most powerful cantrips in the game, Mage Hand, which is nice because we can use this to throw water bottles. You can drop them as a free action, and it can throw them setting up water, and then that means you can deal double damage. And then we'll also take Shocking Grasp or the Ray of Frost. If you're the face of the party, Friends can be a decent choice as well as Bone Chill. For the cantrips, I think it's best to have Mage Armor early game. This is going to give you the best armor class possible, with Robes, Shield to increase your armor class by 5, Magic Missile for guaranteed damage, Find Familiar so you can use the Raven to blind targets, Grease for crowd control without concentration, and Longstrider. You could also add in Thunderwave, but we'll get that from the Tempest Cleric. Now for stats, we do need some Wisdom if we're going to add in the Tempest, or if you're going to add in any other class. Like if you add the Sorcerer, you'll need obviously Charisma. I posted a build yesterday on the Storm Sorcerer paired with this, but the Tempest Domain is by far the strongest. This just multi-classes very well. I would recommend always having your intelligence as high as possible, but the nice thing is you can use the Gloves of the Battle Mage's Power and then use the Helmet of Intelligence and dump your intellect there, or you can use the Helmet of Arcane Acuity and then use the Gloves of Dexterity. You could also use the Constitution Amulet. So there's 3 items that we can use to dump either Dex, Constitution, or Intelligence, making this extremely versatile depending on which. There's a helmet and a glove that'll also give you Arcane Acuity. I personally prefer dumping my overall intelligence and use the Intelligence Circlet, but even so, I'll show you that for either of these. So depending on where you're going to be allocating your stats, like if you don't use the Constitution Amulet, you're going to dump your Constitution and put all those points into your Wisdom. Same thing if you're going to use the Dexterity Gauntlets, dump your Dexterity, or if you use the Intelligence Circlet, dump your Intelligence. But we want to have both these stats equal to each other. Level 2, this is when we actually get to take this, and we get the Blade Song. We'll add a +2 to our armor class, increase our movement speed by 3 meters, and gain advantage in acrobatics, and a +2, eventually 3 to Constitution saving throws. So we're able to hold concentrations much better. This is great because this will add additional armor class even if we're not wearing a shield. And you can't wear medium or heavy armor or shields while blade singing. On top of this, we're going to grab some extra spells here, Chromatic Orb, and I guess whatever of these that you don't need. I mean, you can always learn these from scrolls and replace these in our spell list. And for the blade singing weapon, I'd recommend Longsword. It just gives you a free weapon though, so it's not really that much of a bother. And we'll leave our stats or spells as such. Now, the thing is, once we hit level 6, big power spike, but even level 5 is a large power spike. Our next spells that we want to take, Hold Person, Misty Step, Scorching Ray. Shadow Blade just makes this extremely powerful, and the reason Shadow Blade is so good is the Glove of the Battle Mage's Power gives you 2 stacks of Arcane Acuity for every attack that you made, weapon attack you make with a spell. That includes Booming Blade, Divine Smite, or basic melee attacks with Shadow Blade, making this extremely powerful because you can get a +10 to your spell save DC very quickly with this. So Shadow Blade, Scorching Ray, Misty Step. The thing is, Shadow Blade is going to be your most powerful spell, and it's just the nature of melee Gish style builds. At level 4, we get another feat. We're also going to take a cantrip here, so we can go with something like Minor Illusion to group enemies together. Ray of Frost, Firebolt, if you want to explode things, and Bone Chill is nice to stop targets from receiving healing. And at level 4, our spells will be taking Scorching Ray and Misty Step. You can also take Mirror Image to increase your armor class by 9, which is also quite nice to have, but it's your entire choice there. I'll add a Misty Step. Now, we can go with an ability score improvement to increase our intelligence, which will give us more prepared spells. We can also go with Alert for the +5 to initiative. We can also go with the Spell Sniper, which can give us Eldritch Blast if we wanted to, and increase our critical hit chance with cantrips. But we're kind of a melee attacker, so Savage Attacker can also work. My personal preference is Alert, or increasing our intelligence here. Intelligence means we can learn more spells and we get better spell save DC from it, +1 for every 2 points. And at level 5, we get access to some of the best spells for damage with Fireball and Lightning Bolt. We can also get these from the Tempest, so that's something to keep, or we get that from the Tempest, so it's something to keep in mind. Counterspell we can't learn from scrolls, so you always want to learn that as a Bladesinging Wizard. And then Haste is another really good spell, because that's something that's not on a scroll. And with Haste, yeah, you get an extra action and +2 to armor class, so that can be really good as well. Glyph of Warding is also somewhat useful. I'm just going to take Lightning Bolt or Fireball here for some extra early game damage, as it's nice to have those available, and we always want to have our counterspell prepared because we do have the spell slots to expend on it. At level 6, extra attack. That's what I mentioned. This is where it gets really strong. And then we can take some extra spells here. Fear is even a good one to take. Glyph of Warding, Haste, you name it. We'll go with those there. And we'll add on the... You can always remove these a bit later on when we learn spells from scrolls. At level 7, this is when we're going to add in the Cleric, and things start to get a little crazy here. So we get to take some Cleric cantrips, Resistance Sacred Flame, and Bursting Sinew work. And we're going to go with the Tempest Domain Cleric here. This gives us Thunderwave, Fog Cloud, and as a reaction, we can strike back on an attacking creature, dealing 2 to 16 thunder or lightning damage. So a bit of extra damage as a reaction. It's always good to weaponize your reactions. And then we also get access to the very powerful Creator Destroy Water. You can start combat by this using this because it doesn't aggro people, and it's going to set up so they take double damage from our Chain Lightning, which we can max boost at next level. Crazy. We also get Healing Word, and Command is not a bad spell to have as well, because we do have a decent Wisdom stat, which goes even further when we have Arcane Acuity, so we actually can land these. And then I guess Guiding Bolt is not a bad one to have as well, just if there's targets that are weak to radiant damage. Now level 2, Destructive Wrath. When you roll lightning or thunder damage, you can use Channel Divinity to deal maximum damage instead. Very strong because, again, Chain Lightning can now be rolled for its max damage on a Create Water enemy. If a target's wet, they take 160 damage guaranteed from this, and it chains to 3 other people. So that is good. It's really, really good. And then for our next spell, I mean, Bless or Sanctuary, really, whatever you prefer there. It's not bad to have Sanctuary. Level 3 gives us the Gust of Wind and Shattered Divinity spells. I would also recommend grabbing something like the Spiritual Weapon spell. And we can even take Hold Person here if you don't want to take it from the other class. And we also can get Aid, which gives us a lot of extra survivability for the team. So that's another option that we do have there. But one of the more powerful spells we'll be getting in a moment. At level 4, we get ourselves another cantrip here. You can take Toll the Dead. And then for our next level spell, we'll grab Hold Person there. And we can take that off of our wizard spell list if you really want to. You can leave it on the wizard to give yourself an extra +1 to your spell save DC. And we can even go with it. Alerts is a good choice, or increasing our intelligence all the way to 20. Or you can even increase your wisdom if you find you're casting more cleric spells, but I think that intelligence is the way to go, because more of our damage spells are from intelligence, and the higher the intelligence, the more spell casting we can do, because we can prepare an extra spell. Level 5, Destroy Undead. We also get the Chain or Call Lightning and Sleet Storm spells, but the big ticket here is Spirit Guardians. Enough said. This will provide you with damage, and it's probably the best concentration to hold in the game, allowing us to run around dealing damage twice with our melee and then Spirit Guardians on top of that. Also with this, we can then grab something like the, if we take off Spiritual Guiding Bolt there, we can take Mass Healing Word, and Glyph of Warding is not a bad spell either. You can set that up outside of combat, it works great. But the big thing, Thunderbolt Strike. When you deal lightning or thunder damage with a creature that's large or smaller, you can push it up to 3 meters. Yeah, we can do that pretty easily. We got Fowler Alluve to proc thunder damage on targets. We also got Booming Blade. So it becomes really strong really quickly. And then we'll add Glyph of Warding there from the Cleric. So put this all together, we have full max level spell casting. And for gear, I would recommend if we want to go... So the Helmet of Arcane Acuity is light armor. This means that we can use mage armor with it, because that will make it so that we can apply this to ourselves. So if we use the Robe of the Weave, that can actually give us a pretty good armor class. You could also use the Ballast armor with the Helmet of Arcane Acuity if you wanted to go a light armor route. But with this, I went with the Hood of the Weave. This gives a +2 to spell save DC and spell attack rolls. You could also go with the Diadem of Arcane Synergy. Whenever you inflict a condition, you get to add your intelligence modifier to your damage on weapon attacks. So it's a +5 to our weapon attacks. Early game, Haste Helmet's good. Act 2, Helmet of Arcane Acuity is good. The Helmet of Storm Science power is also great, because whenever we deal thunder damage, we gain Arcane Acuity. That can be procced off of the Fowler Alluve weapon as well with the Shrieking Song, so that can be a nice choice as well. The Hood of Weave just gives us a nice +2. And also, you can use the Pyro Quickness hat. That gives you an extra bonus action, so if you wanted to use some of your more different Bonus action abilities, you could go with something like that. I personally think the best thing would be, again, Warped Headband of Intellect if you want to dump Int, and then also the Robe of the Weave, Hood of the Weave, Circle of Diadem of Arcane Synergy, and Haste or Helmet of Arcane Acuity. Now, I have the Vivacious Cloak here. What's cool about this is cantrips count as spells. So you can do Booming Blade and get 8 temporary health every single time you use it with a Vivacious Cloak. This is probably the best actually cloak for them, but if we want to increase our survivability, Cloak of Protection is the way to go. That's going to put our armor class up higher. I also have the Robe of the Weave, +1 to spell save DC and spell attack rolls, and whenever we succeed on a saving throw, we get 1 to 6 health points back, and +2 to armor class. Gloves of the Battle Mage's Power. Whenever we use a spell or cantrip that uses a weapon, we gain Arcane Acuity. So yeah, Booming Blade, boom, we get ourselves that Arcane Acuity. But not just that, Shadow Blade's main attacks will also proc that. And I also like to have the Boots of Stormy Clamor to stack up Reverberation, especially with Spirit Guardians, because that applies a condition. We could also just use the Evasive Shoes to take our armor class up even higher. And there's the Wondrous Gloves to take our armor class up to 20, 21 with the ring. And yeah, you can actually make this a bit more survivable. And then with Haste and also the Blade Song, we can get our armor class up to like 26, 27. Pretty crazy. I have the Amulet of Greater Health there just for the better amount of health, but you can go with the Spell Savant Amulet or the Psychic Spark to give yourself an extra magic missile. Even the Amulet of Devout, which will give you an extra Channel Divinity that lets us do 3 maximum Chain Lightnings. Pretty crazy. I also like to have the Ring of Elemental Infusion whenever you deal spell damage with a cantrip or spell, it infuses your weapon for an extra 1d4. What's cool is Booming Blade will actually proc that extra 1d4 of damage, so that's nice. And then Ring of Arcane Synergy, whenever you do a cantrip damage, you gain the Arcane Synergy. Don't use the Diadem of Arcane Synergy with this, it's one or the other, but that adds the +5 to our weapon attacks. Fowler Aloof, best Act 1 weapon to go with, because you have the Shrieking Song to add thunder damage. And then I also have the Hellrider Longbow for the +3 to initiative. However, there's some other ways that we can go about doing this. So we got the staff here of Spell Power, or the Marka Heshker staff here, so we can actually go with this here, but it gives us a free cast. So we can use this free cast and then give ourselves a free Shadow Blade. So that can be really nice. So boom, Arcane Battery, and then Shadow Blade. Make sure you upcast it all the way to give yourself the 4d8 version of this, which is the strong version. So yeah, 48 + 8 psychic damage. And in our offhand, throw Dolor Amaris. If you have the Resonance Stone, that's going to double the damage on the Shadow Blade, so that 48 becomes essentially like 88 of damage +8 if you're using a Strength Potion. And then Dolor Amaris will add 7 damage, which is doubled to +14 damage because of the Resonance Stone. So yeah, that's a really good offhand weapon. Velm is also good, will give you a bonus action attack. So again, if I was mentioning using the Power Quickness hat, this would be a good example of something to use alongside, but that extra damage on critical hits is extremely useful. So all of that together, we can also then learn spells from scrolls. So things like Odaluk's Freezing Sphere. We can now throw that into our wizard spellbook. I would recommend grabbing these spells here that you can see. And the big ones we'll be using are Spirit Guardians, is best concentration. Mage Hand, if you know you're getting into a fight, pop that down, have it throw water bottles for you. And then you also got like your Chain Lightnings and Booming Blades, but we'll show that all off in the combat section. If you have the Lithid ability free cast, you can then go ahead with a upcasted Spirit Guardians. I'd recommend the Radiant or Necrotic, depending on the elemental damage type that you need, because that 68 damage is actually really effective, because it's also going to proc a lot of our gear. And then we can also summon in our Mage Hand and then drop a water bottle for it, so it can go ahead with throwing it. That is a mod that makes it pink. But yeah, that's kind of our pre-battle preparation. We can also summon in the spiritual weapon Maul. The Maul will give disadvantage on wisdom saves if it lands its dazed condition, which is also really nice. When it comes to combat, we want to first stack up our Arcane Acuity with melee attacks. So we're gonna be doing that by using our Booming Blade there. And you can see Booming Blade does up to 56 damage, but just remember the psychic damage is doubled and it's not calculated there. So you're gonna see we're gonna be one-shotting a lot of people. I should have probably just ran towards them. I didn't need to attack them because we already took them out using our using the Spirit Guardians. But you see there, we got 4 stacks of Arcane Acuity, which is already putting our intelligence spellcasting to a 24 and 22 for the cleric, which is enough to land a command on a lot of people. You can see 99% hit chance on a lot of these targets. So Arcane Acuity becomes really powerful really quickly. We're then going to follow this up with another attack on someone that's a high priority target. We get advantage. There's Light Shade there, 92 damage, 33 from Spirit Guardians, and then the extra damage there as well. Pretty crazy. We then have 6 Arcane Acuity. I would recommend getting that up a little bit higher if you possibly can, as we want to get the maximum amount before we do any type of spell casting. So we then can go, I guess, with another Booming Blade here, because every action you can use a Booming Blade on. I'm actually going to take out this target as they're a bit of a higher priority target. And then we got our 10 stacks of Arcane Acuity. Pretty crazy. Got a Thunder Infusement too. We'll just go around spreading and burning people to a crisp with Spirit Guardians. One of the most powerful spells in this game. And then we'll finish off with our final attack on this one. We get this advantage on attacks because it's lightly obscured, and the Shadow Blade has the ability to give yourself advantage on attack rolls against lightly or heavily obscured targets. It's generous in its in how it calculates that. And this was all without even invoking the Blade Song, but with the Blade Song active, we're going to get a 23 armor class, which gives us more than enough survivability alongside our Spirit Guardians. And as a bonus action, we can use either Misty Step to move around, Healing Word if we need someone to get a heal, or a Spiritual Weapon to apply the Maul. The Maul, again, being extremely effective because it can daze targets, so we can land Hold Person on them a little bit more freely. And we'll use the Concussive Smash there. It dazed them. That's perfect. So now they have disadvantage on Wisdom saves for 2 turns. Unfortunately, they took out our Mage Hand, but we still have the Water Bottle here in a prime position, so we can go blink. And then now that target has Wet applied to them, so they're going to take double lightning damage. So our teammates can actually help set us up as well. We now have 9 stacks of Arcane Acuity, giving us a 29 spell save DC and 27. So everything we spellcast will likely land at this point, making it pretty strong. The best uses of this would be things like Hold Person, so we can get free critical hits off, or even just using the Chain Lightning spell, which is an extremely powerful spell, which was what I'm going to use here. You see, we got a 95% hit chance on that. Ideally, I'd use it on the target that has Wet applied to them. Maybe I will, just to show that off, because it's going to hit really hard with Destructive Wrath. 160 guaranteed damage, 80 on them, but that 160 damage is crazy. That's exactly why this build is so overpowered. And honestly, I think it's pretty fun, because you got the option between Chain Lightning or going with multiple melee attacks. Now there's 3 targets remaining because Chain Lightning is pretty crazy with its damage. So what we're going to do is use a command, and we're going to use command. If you have the Band of the Mystic Scoundrel, you can also use that as well. But we're going to go with a command approach on all targets here. 99% hit chance, 85% hit chance. They have high wisdom, and 85 on them because they also have high wisdom. But we landed it on all 3 of them. Perfect. So we don't even have to worry. We can just end our turn and let them come to us. And then also use our Maul too, because yeah, we got that extra 8 damage. That's nice. It also is good for breaking concentrations. But you can see they're all going to run right into our Spirit Guardians. And yeah, it takes them out just like that. So that's the beauty of this, is you can get a lot of damage off really easily. And then once our spell saves DC is up to 30, yeah, they have to roll a 30 to not get hit by that. So they're likely going to get hit by that. If you're hasted, you can then do the ever powerful combination of using Create Water to get that extra damage in on the targets. I think it's actually worth doing it this way. We unfortunately only have 1 Chain Lightning, and we use our free cast to be able to take Spirit Guardians, so we can also just go with an upcasted Lightning Bolt though. That also does a lot of damage. And then with the Destructive Wrath, 120 guaranteed. This is very powerful in Baldur's Gate 3. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. The Bladesinging Wizard is one of my favorite new subclasses, just because of all the build potentials. You can pair this with any subclass and make a fun spellcaster, but also melee attacker hybrid. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Hit the subscribe button below if you haven't already, and I'll see you all in the next video.